This is an overview video of how to use Shepherd. We'll just be briefly showing the different screens and how to navigate around. Later videos will go into more detail on how to use each screen. So to begin with, we have the login screen. Everyone will have their own PIN number to quickly log into Shepherd. When you log in, you start on what's called the dashboard. The dashboard first shows you all the patients that are currently active in the clinic. So at the moment we have these 4. You can see there's a lot of information that comes here on each patient. So we have the patient's name. When you hover over, you can see some of their basic information. We have the client's name. We have any warnings that are related to the patient or even to the client. There's also status indicators to say that the patient has been checked out and is ready to go home. There will also be the option for resuscitation status, telling us when they checked in, which can be sorted if we need to find out, who has been there the longest or not. The location that the patient is in the building, that can be updated quickly whenever the location has changed. The doctor that is assigned to that patient, as well as any other staff members who've worked with that patient, and then the initial reason for the patient being in the clinic. This page can be pretty quickly customized if you're trying to find something specific. So for instance, I can click the Assigned to Me button, and it will filter out any patients that are not assigned to me as the doctor. You can also quickly search. So let's say we have many patients in that day, and we're just looking for our patient. We know them by name, or perhaps we just know the patient's last name. We can quickly type that and it will come up. Also on this dashboard screen, we have patients that are in review, which means that they've checked out, but the file has not been completed yet. So this will stay here until we tell the program that that file is complete. Also, labs pending. So whenever we have lab work that's being sent out, until we receive the lab results, which will show up on this page, it'll stay on this page. And then we'll also have prescription refill requests. So as we either in-house or the client request refills, they will pop up on here until they're approved and filled. Next, we have the client and patient screen. So here we can simply start typing a first name, last name, pet name, whatever you have, and it will quickly populate the results. So it started out by showing any patients that were owned by a Jesse, or if there were any patients named Jesse, they would show up there, and then the clients as well down here. So for instance, I could also just take a patient name. Now, there aren't a lot of clients or patients currently in this demo database, so obviously it's not showing very many, but they quickly pop up there. This is also a place where we can quickly start adding a new client. Next, we have the schedule. So at the moment, this isn't very full of appointments, but you get the idea that the appointments show up as these blocks. Now, a big difference from what we're used to is there isn't the template that is showing what needs to be scheduled in each individual slot. So for right now, we'll be having a guide in this center column that will inform us what appointments should be scheduled at that time of the day. So even as we scroll over to the other side of the calendar, we can still see that template over there. There will also be certain blocked off periods that can be added without a patient assigned to them. Then next we will move over to the invoices. So here we can sort through any active invoices, when the charges are complete but they haven't paid. we can pull up a list of just the prescription refills that have been approved but have not been charged out yet. And we can also see those with an active balance remaining. And when they've checked out, they'll all come over to this list. And at the top, we can sort, by many different values here as needed, as well as quickly search for different names very quickly. Next, we have tasks. So tasks will be a new thing for us. This is something that you can assign tasks to individuals in the clinic by name. These can be things that you can just create a custom one whenever you would like to, or they can be auto-generated depending on what is charged to the client, what is invoiced to the patient. Those will auto-generate various tasks that we can use. So for instance, a particular surgery may generate a callback task and can be assigned to the doctor or the technician that was working with it that day when that task was generated. If we have, maybe we know that we need to call a client on a day or later in the day, we can add a task for ourselves or for another person. And so then you can easily click the assign to me, and it will show only the ones that are assigned to you personally, so you can quickly see those. We'll also have groups of people, so there'll be an account essentially that will be for all receptionists or for all technicians, and so we can sort by that to look, just for the technicians and see what tasks have been assigned as a group. Then we also have messaging. So we have two-way text messaging that we can do with the clients, and through the messaging center we can handle that, as well as templates for the text messages. We can send appointment requests to the patients, or the clients, I should say. And then we can also send out mass text messages as needed. Next, we have the whiteboard. So this would be similar to our treatment sheet. And what this will do is this will have visual identifiers that tell us when certain treatments need to be done, as far as injections or blood work or just anything that has a scheduled time throughout the day. We can visually see when that needs to be done and can record notes on what's done and check it off as it's completed. The forms, so this would be any sort of custom forms that we need to use. So at the moment, there are just a couple examples here. So for instance, like a surgery consent form, and that this is something that we can send to the client for them to review on their own phone or device at home. And then they can complete the form, sign it electronically, and send it back to Shepherd, and then it will automatically be in their file. And then we can also see what forms have come back all in one spot here with the responses. So for instance, one form that was completed here. So we can see that it auto-generated all of the patient information and client information. And then these were fields that I filled out as indicated by the form when I looked at it on my phone. I made a selection and then type name, date, and then consign. So at this point, we can go in and start practicing adding a client and patient and scheduling an appointment. And then we'll move on to what it looks like when the patient comes into the clinic. So I'm going to start over in the client and patient, add a new client. So we'll be able to select whether we want to send email notifications or text message notifications in various ways. So we'll enter phone, say what kind of phone number it is. We can add multiple phones but still have the primary phone number selected, so we know which one we should call first. I don't need to add all of this information, so I won't, just for brevity here. We can certainly add any sort of alerts. This would be specifically for the client. So let's say they need to always receive an estimate. And then we'll go ahead and save here. But one notable option, we can have a second person on the account, or also just an authorized agent, someone who's maybe not an owner, but a friend or other family member that they authorize for specific visits. Okay, so now we have this new client. We're going to go up and add a new patient to the client. First, let's go ahead and look at what this client page looks like. So that's all the information that we just entered up here. And then for the client, we'll have the financial page, which will show any invoices that they've had and payments that they've made. We'll also be able to store their credit card information here if they request that. And then any notes that we make. The nice thing about Shepherd is on almost every page, there will be places where you can leave notes to explain anything that's going on. Also, any sort of files. So let's say if we're receiving history from another clinic, that can be uploaded as a PDF and will be living in that area there. All of these invoices, payments, they can be sorted by all of these different methods. They can also be emailed, downloaded to your computer, or printed very easily. They also have tasks. So any of those tasks, like what we have over here in this window, that are assigned specifically linked to this client will show up on here. Any upcoming or past appointments we can view. Reminders that are specific to this client. Any forms that they've completed. And then we can also message the client directly from their card. So now we will create a patient. Forgot my capitals. Okay, we're just going to fill out the required information here. So say we have a dog. So I can either, scroll down these lists, or I can simply type and it will come up with various options. So here it looks like we would have the option of either setting a date or doing an estimate with just placing years, months, and weeks. This is where we'll have their microchip number, their rabies tag. We do have the option of setting a CPR status. So maybe if we have a patient that's rather sensitive, having a surgery, if the doctor indicates whether they need to know whether to do CPR or not, we can do that here. And it shows up very prominently on the dashboard. Any sort of alerts or additional notes specific to this patient. Okay, so at this time we now have this new client and patient. So if we're on the phone, or actually, I guess it would work out best if the client just walked in the door and we started an appointment, we could simply go up here and just hit the check-in button. But let's go ahead and go to the calendar and set up an appointment from here. So let's say we're just going to schedule them at 10:30. So we can say that it's here for an ear infection. And John Doe. We have two different John Does in this case, but we can look at what patients are there. So there's the right one, Billy Bob. Okay. Now, if this is a double pet appointment, we can also add an additional pet here simply by typing another name. If we had just clicked on this calendar and we were creating it for a new client, we could also start the new client and new patient information right here. Or if they're an established client, start the new patient. Then we're going to want to select the appointment type. That has some preloaded information that comes along with it. So here we're going to be doing a medical appointment. That automatically sets it the time for that appointment. We already selected 10:30 when we clicked on the calendar and in Dr. Ron's slot, but that can be changed. This will allow us to send an email or a text message notifying the client that we scheduled that appointment. Okay, so now we have our appointment. So next we're going to want to check in that patient. So when I click on it, first of all, we can see that we have various statuses that can be changed as needed. So for instance, if they call and cancel, if they've no-showed, anything like that, we can change there. In our case, we're going to want to check in. So this is what we're going to see when we're moving a patient through the clinic. So they've checked in, and this has generated what's called the SOAP form. So SOAP just stands for subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. Now we also have D for the discharge information and then our prescription information. At the end we have the charges, and then the beginning is the summary for the SOAP. On the SOAP summary, this is where we will take the basic information about the appointment, but also we have an area for an estimate. The nice thing about the estimate is, as we add items to the estimate, the owner can accept or decline them, and that will be recorded. And all of those items can quickly be turned into the treatment plan, which we'll see later, as well as go directly onto the invoice as they're completed. In subjective, this would be primarily where we have the history for the patient. Now, down here we have a template that was quickly added to this. So this is a feature that we will have throughout Shepherd and any sort of text box. You'll see over in the corner we have user shortcuts. So these are specific to you as you log in, or clinic-wide shortcuts. So for instance, I have loaded in here one that you just saw, which was the history one. And when you do that, it's just a pre-generated set of text that you can then edit quickly as you need to. Next, we have objective. So these are things that we would be able to measure, such as our TPR. We can add any additional information that we would need, as well as the doctor's physical exam. So on here, we would just add a physical exam, or we can even view past exams. And in this case, any abnormals will be highlighted automatically for easily viewing. And then all of these normals are things that we can customize as pre-generated items that when we say they're normal, that's what we're talking about. At the bottom, we have a comparison chart that will help us to track changes in body weight and temperature over time. Assessment. So this is where the doctor will list the problems at that appointment, as well as assign any diagnoses and long-term diagnoses as well. And then these can be tracked on the client card. So any ongoing conditions, we can keep track of those easily. And then simply some notes about what's going on today. And we can find any uploaded laboratory, imaging, simply documents, perhaps from a referring veterinarian, and any forms that the client filled out related to today's appointment. In plan, this is where we're going to have a written description of the plan for today, or simply just order treatments to be done. So, for instance, for an ear infection, we can say that we would like to get an ear cytology, to clean the ears, and so we can add those treatments here, and then we can schedule them to be completed. They can get marked off as they get completed. When they're marked off, they go directly onto the invoice. Then for the discharge instructions, so these are going to be documents that can be automatically printed when they check out. So for instance, if we diagnose a patient with ear infection, we can have that automatically bring up a client handout about ear infections that will print off when they check out. We can also bring up any custom documents we would like to. And then we have our prescriptions. So this is where we would order any prescriptions to send home with a client or any written prescriptions. From here, we can simply print it. This would print from a label printer. And then for charges, this is like a summary view of the charges of the day. And when we click into invoice, this is the official invoice where we can change anything as far as prices, apply any discounts. And then over on the side, we have the summary to take payment. And then, of course, we have our credit card option, which is what's called Shepherd Pay. Or if we're not using credit card, we can simply turn that off and have any of our other options here. You can just have the total amount paid. Currently it's 0, so it's not showing me that option, or simply put in a custom amount if they're not paying the full amount. Over here, it'll keep a running total of what they owe, or if they have a balance on their account, a positive balance, that'll show here. And they'll be color-coded red and green. We can take any custom notes that we need related to the payment, such as if we need a note to say why they didn't pay the full balance today, that can be entered, and we'll always stay with the invoice. And then we can simply hit the checkout button. Now, some other features that we'll want to see. Down here in the right-hand corner, there will always be this button. And this gets you to the Shepherd support. And so they're very quick at answering these text messages through the support. Or if you simply just want to access the online help, you can search through that quickly. So for instance, if we want to know how do we do a prescription refill, we can certainly search through their database and see if it just answers our question for us. Right here, it's walking you through how to do a prescription refill. If that doesn't answer our question, we can certainly click here, and during the day when we're in the clinic, they'll be available online to answer any questions. Other notable features, up in the top corner here, there is always going to be the search. So we can search quite a few different parameters at any time, whether it be products, patients, clients, simply typing that in as this one already was typed in, will bring up that information. Also available up here would be the history of what's been added or subtracted as you've moved through this hope. So if you need to quickly go back and kind of see the the order of events of what occurred. You can always look at that as well and sort and search. Up at the top, we have the patient's information. So anytime we're in something directly related to a patient's name will be up here, the client's name, any notes will be up there as well, and then some brief information here. Over in the bottom left, if we click on our name, this will give us the option of logging off. Now, there will be an automatic log off time, so if you leave the computer for a few minutes, it will automatically log you out, but it would be good to get in the habit of automatically going here and logging yourself out by clicking the lock screen button. That will take you back to the screen where you simply type in your PIN code, or the next person can type in their PIN code. Also, another way to get to the Help Center or to view your personal profile information. That is a quick overview of the different parts of the app. There are certainly going to be more things that we're going to do in each individual area, but we will have individual videos for these different parts of Shepherd for you to review.